Hello, my name is Cameron Turner. This is my final project for linguistics in Professor Aben's class. I'm focusing on Chapter 9, specifically ASL.
I want to start off with a brief history of how sign language came to be. In the mid-300 BC, famous Greek philosopher Aristotle had the belief that deaf people were incapable of learning. It is because of this belief that many deaf people were denied their fundamental rights. This belief held up for a couple thousands of years, until the Renaissance era in Europe, when scholars began to question that idea. In the 1500s, Geronimo Cardano discovered that deaf people can be educated through the use of written words. He used this method on his deaf son with success. In the 1700s, a Spanish priest by the name of Juan Pablo de Bonet started teaching deaf children using his own methods. His methods include writing, reading, and speech readings. Juan also created a manual alphabet system, which was the first of its kind recognized in deaf history. A huge impact on the deaf community came from a French priest by the name of Abbé de la Paix, known as the father of the deaf. La Paix established the first free public school for the deaf in 1771. He learned signs that children brought from their homes and used them to teach his students French. The signs he used with his students became standard sign language, known as Old French Sign Language. He is credited with establishing 21 schools for the deaf, which is why he became known as the father of the deaf. ASL. In 1814, Dr. Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet noticed that his 9-year-old daughter, who was deaf, was intelligent even though she was deaf. He went to Europe to seek help, and it was there that he met Laurent Clerc, among other instructors at the National Institute for Deaf Mutes. Gallaudet took private lessons from Clerc on learning sign language. Gallaudet asked Clerc to come to the United States with him, with the hope of starting an American school for the deaf. Clerc agreed to come to the U.S., where him and Gallaudet started the first free deaf school in the United States called American School for the Deaf, which was founded in the year 1817. American Sign Language, ASL, stemmed from signs that students brought to the school from home, as well as from French sign. Sign language is not a universal language. For example, some signs are known as iconic signs, meaning they look like what they represent. This might sound like it is universal, however, the sign that represents tree in one culture might be different in another. To further this point, there are different types of sign language. There are fingerspelling, which have signs that represent an actual letter. This type of signing is closely related to English and uses the English alphabet. I'll show examples. For fingerspelling, I will demonstrate the alphabet for you, the English alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, which is like the G upside down, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Unlike fingerspelling, ASL is structured completely different than English or any other type of language, and it has its own grammar. Hundreds of thousands of deaf people in the United States and Canada use ASL as their primary language. Deaf children who have deaf parents have an easier time of learning ASL. What is troubling is the fact that only 10% of deaf children have parents who are deaf. The other 90% of deaf children have a more difficult time learning ASL. One reason for this is because hearing parents still try to push their children into learning oral language. As such, congenitally deaf people, which means deaf from birth, typically can't communicate as efficiently with oral language as with sign. The 10% of deaf children with deaf parents also tend to fare better psychologically, cognitively, linguistically, socially, and educationally. To finish off, William Stoke came up with 3 distinctive characteristics used to analyze signs. The first, des, which is the designator, which is the hand shape of a sign. So this is the hand straight? Is it curled up in a ball? Is it a fist? Etc. The second is signation, which is the type of motion used in a sign. So is your hand going up and down? Is it going left to right? Or is it going in a circular motion? The third is the tabula, which is the location in which the sign is made. The sign can be made on the head, the face, or the body. Each place that the sign is located represents a different meaning. Thank you for listening to my final presentation.